This is the Ramana Maharshi Atma Vidya satsang, a time to listen, reflect, and to deeply inquire into the self. Know yourself and be always free and at peace. Welcome. I'm Richard Clarke, hosting this satsang. I'm a seeker like you, sharing what we love. I've been blessed with years of deep teaching and practice that I bring to this satsang. This week I continue with Atma Vidya, the third of the 5 verses. Atma Vidya is one of several books written by Ramana Maharshi that were initiated by Muruganar. Thank you, Muruganar. Now, verse 3. The thought, I am the body, is the thread on which are strung together various thoughts. Questing within, enquiring, who am I, and whence this thought? All other thoughts vanish. And as I, within the heart cave, the self shines of its own accord. Such self-awareness is the only heaven, this stillness, this abode of bliss. Ramana's verse starts with the thought, I am the body, is the thread on which are strung together various thoughts. This tells one important element in Ramana's teaching, that our mind are formed around the idea, the assumption that we are an individual. It is this idea that grows into our view of who we are, our ego I. What we think is our identity. Then our mind organizes itself around this central idea with ideas of others and a world and maybe a higher power, all in relation to this ego I. Neuroscientists know now that the physical brain organizes and constantly reorganizes itself around what we think and sense and experience. In fact, there are brain areas that generate this sense of being an individual. It's not innate, it takes some special part of the brain. They've scanned people with a deep sense of oneness between themselves and the universe, and found these brain areas to be dormant, inactive. The powerful, the radical thing this practice does is to challenge your sense of individuality, your assumed and built up ideas of who you are, the roles and people and places and things and ideas you identify as somehow elements of who you are. This idea is the deepest idea of the mind. Every other idea is oriented towards this. So when the deepest idea changes, so does everything else. This is the power of self-inquiry. Change how you see yourself and simultaneously this changes how you see others, the world, and the higher power. The core idea can be called I am an individual. It starts with I am a body. What if this idea is just not true? Thus, self-inquiry is launched. The next sentence, questing within, enquiring, who am I and whence this thought? All other thoughts vanish. Self-inquiry is the internal investigation into what is the truth about your own identity and existence. As you learn to get quiet and look within yourself, you see there is so much mental activity, so many thoughts and feelings and ideas and memories shaping your experience. Asking, who am I, gives you an organization to this internal investigation. You start to notice that all of these thoughts, why, they are about me. In some way or another, they all relate to me, this ego I. You start looking, seeing that everything and every thought seems to come and go. You look for what does not come and go, what is always there. And you notice there is something. It's not a thing. Maybe it's more like a feeling or a presence, but something that is not a thing, and it is always, always within me. Knowing this, feeling this, being this, the monkey mind, filled with all these thoughts oriented around some seeming individual, gets very quiet. Neurologists actually see this when what they call the default mode network shuts off. This brain network is where all these self-referential thoughts come from. It is the monkey mind. It stops during meditation, and with enough meditation, it stops for good. I've heard this described as, I stopped thinking. Then Ramana says, and as I, within the heart cave, the self shines on its own accord. In the now quiet mind, there is still this knowing that is existence, consciousness, but with no object. Buddhists say empty, but not void. Ramana called it the substratum. From the standpoint of the world and all else, they are built on this substratum. He also called it the heart, not the physical heart, but where being, consciousness, and bliss rise from and are known only by knowing that they are. Finally, he says, from such self-awareness is the only heaven, this stillness, this abode of bliss. Bliss is our nature. When we get something we desire and are then happy, it's because of the cloud of desire that obscured our nature, which is happiness itself. This cloud cleared away for a bit, and we feel the happiness that we are. When you start to notice that this happiness really comes from within, you start looking there instead of from things and from people. Then you discover something that might seem odd, that instead of more things to make you happy, that less is more, that silence brings more happiness than lots of activity. All that it takes to be in the abode of bliss is to be quiet within yourself. Now, my teacher Nome with a discourse beyond body, mind, and ego.
In the quest to realize absolute being, what you are seeking to know, you are. And the inquiry to know the self consists in the destruction of the falsely assumed individuality, which is abidance as that very absolute being. In worshiping God, the Supreme Lord of the universe, what you worship, you are. And the devotion or worship consists of the dissolution of the falsely supposed separate individuality. Leaving the infinite to remain as it perpetually is. Just inquire deeply into your own true nature. Discern how it is not possible, in truth, for you to be a body, or a mind, or an ego entity. How could an objectively perceived, sense-perceived, sporadically occurring thing called the body be you? You who are of the nature of being and consciousness and bliss. How could the attributes of a body be your attributes? Birth, death, active, inactive, and so forth and so on. The connection, the false connection, that seems to tie together yourself of the nature of being, consciousness, bliss with a body is ignorance. if just that much ignorance is given up, abandoned in the light of clear knowledge, what troubles would you have? What veils would there be to cover the innate bliss of the being consciousness that you are? Thinking may be useful for dealing with other thoughts, but of what use can it be in knowing the consciousness, which is the solitary knower of all the thoughts? None of the thoughts know you. You know all of them. How could there possibly be a connection, a binding that connects you to the mind? Free of a body, free of a mind, not defining your very existence in terms of these things. What remains of you? Beyond the body, the mind and the ego, the last being purely imagination. What remains is your true existence, which is what you are always. Cease to misidentify as a body, as a mind, as an individual. There is then no limit, no bondage. There is then no reality apart from the self. There is then nothing else existing at any time. Just oneself, yourself, naturally eternal, innately infinite. Every idea of being bound, every idea of being limited in any way as something distinct or apart from the absolute reality of being consciousness bliss, Brahman, is merely a case of misidentification, taking yourself to be an I, a mind, a body. Then once having mistaken oneself to be an I, a mind, and a body, trying to figure out what is real, or how to get to the reality, or how to find God, or how to reach the self, as if that self, the reality, or God, were something far away, or apart from you. Dissolve the false definitions of you, and that which you're hoping to find is self-evident as your very existence, as continuous as your very existence. If the blissful truth is what you want, dive inwardly, deep, in this way.
And now we are going to meditate, inquire, breathe in and breathe out long, slow breaths. Feel the breath as it comes in, then as it goes out, feel your mind quiet. Notice that you exist. You exist and you know you exist without feeling it or thinking about it. You just know. Already this is beyond senses or thought. We're going to inquire. When you get something that you desire and are then happy, where does the happiness come from? From what you received or from within yourself? Looking within, are there many different kinds of happinesses or just one? Maybe one with different flavors. Many happinesses or just one? Where does happiness come from? Is it from things or people? Or is it from within yourself? What is the source of happiness? And now inquire, who am I? What is the nature of my existence? Am I a body or a mind or an ego? Or am I that which knows all of these? Who am I? All right, let's close with a short chant. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Peace, peace, peace. Thank you for letting me share this teaching with you. Next week I'll continue with this review of Atma Vidya. Uh, a short work Ramana wrote at the request of a devotee based on self-knowledge is the easiest thing. Namaste. If this satsang was of interest to you, I have more: a Ramana podcast series, a free book site, a YouTube site, and my blog. The URLs will be on screen next. Namaste.